Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining in. My name is Jens Lindenberg. I'm with Evosys, and I'm delighted today to have Mads Henrik Bang with me, who is responsible in DTU and ERS, or wasn't responsible at that point of time for the HCM rollout we did together. And Mads Henrik will walk us through on why did they move into an HCM cloud or into the cloud in general, and what the benefits has been, and what the result today is as well. So without further ado, I would then turn over to Mads Henrik and ask him to kick off the session and tell us the benefits of HCM Cloud.
Thank you very much, Jens, and thank you for all of you for attending. I'm Mads Henrik Bang, and as Jens says, I have a double role at the Technical University of Denmark. So I'm a part of the finance department at the Technical University of Denmark, working with the Oracle applications, and also I'm heading what is called ERP Samarbejdet in straight Danish. And that's a cooperation between universities in Denmark working together on mutual tendering about Oracle software and consulting services on top of that as well. So hopefully you can see my screen, and I would like you to pay attention to what I'm writing in the lower right corner right now, because that's where our journey starts, and also that would be how I would wrap up this session. This is actually stop customizing, start compromising. This sentence is the opposite as what my tailor said to me, because he said, Mads Henrik, you should start customizing your clothes and you should stop compromising. And I thought about that, because having tailor-made suits, that's perfect. But in the IT world, it's the opposite way, because we have a lot of customizations, and I imagine that you have a lot of customizations as well, or at least you know somebody who has a lot of customizations. So it's all about stopping that nightmare of customizations and then start compromising, also meaning that you have to standardize and you have to embrace what's in the cloud, as we have tried to do. Let's see if I can go to the next page. Yes, this is the agenda for today, and I know you will be able to pose questions at the end of the session. And if you have questions along the way, please put them in the chat. And then I think that Jens or one of his colleagues would try to organize whether we should take them along the way or at the end of the session. For me, both will do. Okay, this is about me. I've been working 30 years with IT, ERP systems and the like. I graduated from 2 different universities in Denmark, and I've been the CEO of what's called ERP Samarbejdet for 7 years now, and I'm working from DTU in Copenhagen, and right now I'm sitting in my home in Sweden, because we are, due to Corona, not allowed to go to the office so far. Primarily, I'm working on behalf of 4 universities in Denmark about HCM and ERP, and in general on the Oracle tech stack. We are some kind of what you could call a center of excellence regarding ERP systems, and I'm very much into the strategic direction about ERP, and I think that's why I've been invited today. And I've been the program lead for the HCM transformation, and right now I'm owner of the Finance Cloud upgrade, which is about the ERP system being upgraded next year. So at the DTU, we have a quite old mission, and it's still doing very well. And it's our founder, H.C. Ørsted, which actually has 200 years of anniversary on his primarily research today this year. But it's all about that DTU is trying to benefit society through tech. And we have a lot of research going on at DTU, but also education, innovation, and scientific advice. We are very proud of being in top of some of the rankings that universities do. There's a lot of rankings out there, but this one we are especially proud of, and it's quite new. So we are striving for the top, as you can see, but it's a tough one to get into number one because they have an overall score on 100%. But nevertheless, being second on this list, we are very proud of at the DTU. This is about how you could look at it from a finance perspective at DTU. So we have a turnover, as you can see, about 700 million euros. And in the top right corner, you can see our specialties from a financial point of view. We have a lot of projects and new projects coming along every year. And there's a lot of requirements on documentations and compliance. And we have to document our projects for up to 20 years. So we have quite some history here. On the HCM side, we have about 6,000 employees and 12,000 students. And our specialties in the HCM part is we recruit from all over the world. We have a lot of external employments and a lot of temporary employments. And we have a lot of reappointments. And that's crucial for our HCM system to be able to handle that. This is also a journey which is about ambitions, and somebody has to set the ambitions, and I'm sure that you're familiar with this Henry Ford quote, but that's an inspiration for us at least, because if we just go out to the business, ask them what they want, then they would somehow ask, I want a faster horse. But I think that what people really want is not a faster horse, but a car translated into the IT world, meaning that everyone says that they want the old system. However, I think that they want the cloud system because there are advantages in the cloud that they do not necessarily understand when we pose the question. But along the way, they will acknowledge that we have some benefits being in cloud. So this is about standardization. This is about achieving efficiency and modernization all in all. And it's about cloud adoption. And especially the word adoption is very, very crucial here because it is a paradigm shift in the systems implementation or development methodology. And you can see it in the lower left corner. This is about traditionally, we have been working with a lot of requirements for driving the system development and implementation. But now in the cloud, we are turning the pyramid upside down, and it's a solution-led approach that we are working with. So it's very much about, this is the way the standard system works. Why can't you use that in the business? And posing those questions and being willing to change the business processes as well. And as those of you working in universities knows that this is a very democratic organization, so we have to do a lot of argumentation in order to convince people about standardization is good. And everyone loves standardizations, but nobody wants to be standardized. So we have been working on the Oracle platform for quite some years, and we have been rehearsing a lot on doing things, and we have a lot of customizations coming from history, and we have been upgrading for 1 to 2 times a decade so far. So on the finance part and where we came from on the HCM part, it was an upgrade to Oracle e-business suite version 12.1.3 back in 2012. And since then, we haven't made a major upgrade. And that's another point about cloud. Now we're getting upgrades every quarter. And there's a lot of new technology every quarter. And we have been looking for new functionality along the way, working on the old platform. And then we could see if we want some new functionality, then we might have to apply a lot of patches before being able to utilize that technology. That's the other way around in the cloud. Things are coming to us automatically. And that's also quite a change in the way we are handling and supporting our system. So be aware of that as well. Your organization must be able to embrace upgrades every quarter instead of, for instance, like us, once or twice a decade. And that's quite a change, I would say. So we did a rehearsal on standardization back in 2017. Because then we did a consolidation on the Oracle platform, on the on-premise platform. And then in 2018, we implemented the HCM cloud. And now we're heading for the cloud finance, as we call it, the ERP. It's the finance system in 2021. And we can see that many customizations can be standardized. We are also aiming for what I call a single version of the truth. We have been using different legacy systems and best-of-breed systems, and it's quite a nightmare to get the single version of the truth out of that. And we are discussing a lot of how did you get this version of the figures as I have another version. So that's also what we are trying to getting rid of by implementing cloud applications so far. And we can see from a support point of view, most of our support is around customizations that we have been making. So getting rid of customizations is also quite a relief for our support function. We did an assessment on whether we should continue on the Oracle platform when going into cloud. And as you can see from Gartner, they say, okay, it's quite a good product in the cloud. And we have been waiting quite some years, I would say, for the cloud product from Oracle. So I think my predecessor, more than 15 years ago, he was told that Oracle was about to launch a cloud suite in those two areas, HCM and ERP. But it took quite some time, and Oracle has done a good job, I would say, and the products are very mature right now. So we also chose the Oracle platform because of the completeness of the suite, because we need some better user experience compared to the on-premise part, and also the data and integration part was very important because we really need Oracle to take responsibility of integrating the modules and having a data model supporting this single version of the truth. Another reason why we are looking into Finance Cloud and why we did look into the HCM Cloud is this way of thinking about classical finance, which I think also applies perfectly on the HCM world. We have been over time using too much time on collecting data and putting them into spreadsheets or mails or whatever it is, but not having enough time of doing analysis and talking with the business. So what we actually are aiming for is using far less time on collecting data. The analysis part could be more intensive, and then we need to interact with decision makers. And the same goes for the HCM world as well. And that's what we are aiming for. And that's also what we're able to achieve, because people should not use that much time on moving data and typing data into several systems as we have been seeing over time. And I can imagine that some of you have that experience as well. The other why, I would say, is about consolidate in the technical part of the organization. And this is a typical system overview. And you can see a lot of systems and databases and so on. And we have been consolidating a bit on the Oracle part. As you can see, the e-business suite, the big yellow box in the middle. And in order to make it simpler, our system landscape, and not doing all the integrations ourselves. Yes. So other directions inspired by Gartner that we have been looking into and also still are looking into is about that integrations. It's a nightmare to administer them, it's a nightmare to develop them, and it takes a lot of cost. And by having a platform strategy, we have been able to lower the cost of doing integrations because it comes out of the box. And another thing that is quite important is this in the upper right corner. The bullet number 2 is about we need to change our business processes far more than we have been willing to do in the past. And that's a journey that we are already on. And it's a tough one, and you have to prepare for that. And again, as being a part of a university who is a very democratic organization, you have to demonstrate a lot of what is going to come, and also a lot of change management. But I think that's not new to all of you out there. And again, in the lower right corner, this so-called Oracle Trading Community Architecture, which is about that data is flowing across the modules. That's quite an advantage if you standardize, so you can use the standard data model and you can use the standard reporting on top of that. So be aware there's a business part and there's a technical part that we have been chasing, and you have to be aware of both, I would say. So our ERP strategy has from the beginning, back in 2013, where I was appointed as CEO for the Evosys Corporation, was all about that we needed to get a new baseline as a first step in the strategy, and then we need to exploit the on-premise platform. And then we had this third stage in the strategy saying, should we go to cloud? And I've heard from Oracle many times that they thought that the question mark should not be a question mark, it should be exposed, and then it should be an equal sign in start of the sentence. So Oracle would prefer saying equals cloud. But we did some investigation about when the product was mature and whether we should proceed on the Oracle platform. And as I've told you, we rehearsed by consolidating on the EBS platform back in 2017 a lot about standardization, and it is a tough one to get the organization into the standardized mode. And then we did an implementation back in 2018 on HCM Cloud and the Taleo recruitment system. And now we're heading for ERP Cloud and EPM, which means the finance system and the budgeting system. And it's also about getting a new user interface instead of the old screens that nobody likes. Yeah, that's about it. So basically it's about, we can see that this no-code development thing is actually going on right now, and we can exchange many of our customizations with configuration instead in the standard platform. But you still have to be aware of, you have to change your business processes as well along the way. And it is quite a tough one regarding change management. And the other side of that, the third stage of the strategy is about there are new technology possibilities coming into the picture. It's about machine learning and chatbots and so on, which is woven into the solution. And then we are able to utilize them along the way as they come into the picture. So on the HCM part, our challenges and needs when we were about to decide what to do about the HCM systems area was about this, and I have been indicating some of the bullets already. But we have a very heterogeneous demographic and cultural environment, and recruitment-wise, we are in a global competition So we need to be more exposed out there and more professional in our ways of recruiting. And also there was a lot about the leadership and leadership foundation or manager role. It is about what should a manager do in relation with HCM stuff. So managers on a university, they love to recruit the best people, but they do not love the administration part of that. So that's quite an equation to solve. As I indicated, we had a lot of fragmented and varied processes across departments. There was a lot of secretariats sitting out there doing HR work, and that's not the best and most professional way of doing things. And there was a lot of variations on that processes. There was a lot of paper, and we did a lot of retyping of data into a lot of systems. And despite that, there was a lack of access to data, and we had fragmented HR processes. So basically, we needed a modern user interface. We also needed managers to be more involved, and we needed GDPR compliance. There was a lot of mails about recruitment and with HR data within, getting rid of that. And then again, the single version of the truth. And especially we had a lot of mails and papers circulating around whenever we should recruit what we call VIPs, professors and assistant professors and so on. And that is fully digitalized today. And this is all about enabling the HR department. So what we did on HCM, we did an implementation of the core HCM and talent acquisition module, and we are working on the compensation module, and then we have some shared functionality with the finance department. So it's about absence management, which we are currently implementing right now due to this holiday legislation change in Denmark. And then we have the time and labor module, which will be implemented as a part of the Finance Cloud program next year. So it is about taking the core HCM and then put new things on top of that, and all things being integrated and interwoven. And that's a very crucial part for us, at least. So we have this platform possibility to make Oracle responsible for woven things together, so to speak. So just to give you an overview of what are the modules that we're looking into, the green ones, it's about HCM, and the black ones is about finance. And as you can see, the OTL, the time and labor, it's a shared responsibility between HCM and the finance, because the time part is about HCM and the labor part is about finance. So we have quite some work to do still on the finance part, as you can see. But the point, again, we have to be able to utilize a shared data model across all the modules. And then we needed some partners in order to succeed, because we cannot do everything ourselves. And I was quite inspired by what Maersk, the Danish shipping company, actually has as a saying back some years, because they said being global and staying local. And a new word was introduced recently, calling glocal. So we were looking for global partners, actually. So it's all about, we have a local Danish partner called Miracle, who has been working with us for some years, and they know about domestic things, and they are quite flexible in their setup. But on the other hand, we also need some global experience, and we need some methodology and scalability. And that's where Evosys comes into the picture. And this is a very good combination of having local and domestic knowledge and global experience. And what we experienced from the beginning was that despite that there's a proven methodology, there was agility on the Evosys part. There was some in the organization challenging that because they have been working with a lot of global partners saying that they are stuck to their methodology, and that's not the case necessarily. Of course, you need to respect the methodology, but you also need to be agile. And they know a lot of things about the Oracle solution that we don't know. So that's quite a strength, but that's also necessary because you need someone who knows the solution and how it's intended to be used in order to challenge us, which is the next thing. They understood our needs, but they also challenged us in order to adopt new processes. So I would say it's quite annoying along the way. However, it's necessary to be challenged because otherwise you just do as you usually do. So you need someone who dares to challenge you along the way. And again, we had this professor recruitment solution inclusive, this academic assessment committee support. And there was a lot of mails and a lot of documents circulating before we got that solution. And actually that works today. So it's in the system and it also is GDPR compliant. And actually Oracle, they have a standard saying that for each applicant, you can only have 5 megabytes of data. And we can't live with that because as those of you working on universities knows that professors and so on, if they send a resume, there's a lot of articles and a lot of stuff in there. So 5 megabytes is not enough. So we convinced Oracle to set a new limit on how many megabytes an applicant could utilize. So be aware of that if you look into this as well. And I don't understand why there are limits so narrow as 5 megabytes for applicants, but we did convince Oracle to change that. We had a lot of rush in the start, and Evosys did scale on that. So that was very satisfactory. And just to warn you, my experience is that it's always about us as a customer not being able to scale in the same manner that our partners are able to do. So from day one, we had a very good partnership, and you should be able to allocate the people from the inside, the subject matter experts, as you are recommended by the partners. If you do not, then you will be lost with a very few people being able to do the work together with the partners. Yes. So what did we experience along the way? We did a cut over on time and budget. We had a fixed price contract, so that's very nice, especially working from a finance department, I would say. We also looked into the top management buy-in, so I'm happy about having a university director who is involved in this project, and it's a no-brainer from a theoretical point of view, but many of you may know that it's a tough one to get buy-in from top management from time to time, and it is very crucial. We did a lot of preparation to understand what is actually in the system and what is this cloud adoption thing about, because there was a lot of things that we didn't know, and that's where the partners comes into the picture. And I'm very much into prototyping, and when doing cloud systems, you are able to set up the system very, very early in the process and do that even though you cannot have all your data in and so on. But it's a very good thing because a picture tells more than 1,000 words. So whenever interacting with the business, you can show a picture about how does the system look like, and that's very beneficial. And as you all might have experienced earlier on, data cleansing and preparation, it's a hard one, and it took longer for us as well. And master data stewardship, it is a tough one, and you can't delegate that. So you need to assign people from the inside that can clean up your data, preferably in the old system before converting data. And it took us several months to do that. And it is normally a scarce resource to have people that are knowing about your data, and especially about the HR data, because in the finance department there's a lot of nerds who wants to work in spreadsheets and so on. It's not the same thing in an HR department. So be sure that you know enough about your data in order to get them cleaned along the way. Then we used a learning methodology called Herskin. He is a Danish, he is the grand old man of IT learning in Denmark. And it's a modern Nordic learning methodology. And it is about not focusing on the system whenever you are teaching about the system. It's about people should know the overall process. So it's about their working process and not about the system. And also less is more. So not doing a lot of telling about what is obvious in the system. It's about where are the pitfalls in the system. And then we utilized a cascading train the trainer principle. So it's the HR organization who is serving as super users and not domestic people at each institute. This is a good approach if you have the willingness in the HR department to be super users, and that also supports what is crucial at our university. The VIPs, being the professors and so on, they don't do self-service. So even though we have a solution here which is quite user-friendly, VIPs, they want to do research, they want to do all the professional stuff that they're hired to. They do not want to do administration. So the super users from the HR organization is also supporting the VIPs whenever they're doing things that are not in a natural part of the day-to-day operation and business. Other reflections is about early engagement, and we are learning from that. So on the ERP implementation that we are doing right now, we are preparing even more than we did early on and allowing more time for this rollout. And change management is an evergreen, and I think you all know about it. But stakeholders, they need to understand why we are standardizing, and it is a paradigm shift. So be aware. You should be able to convince your organization about standardization, and it is a tough one. And then rehearse. So get important stakeholders on board and do some proof of concept on all the things that you're doing regarding change management as well. And then it's also about having a proper governance organization and listen to your partners, because they know what kind of governance you need on that. They are experienced regarding that. And then it's from a technical university point of view, we need to be in front of the bus regarding utilizing technology, because that's what we are doing. Actually, it is technology. And it also takes some courage, I would say, in order to do cloud implementation, because you need to convince the organization about the standardization, but you can do it, but it takes some courage. Be aware of that you need some partners in crime to do this as well. Listen to the outside experts about the processes. That's where you have to pick the right partners who are experienced, and then shape a team with the best personnel internally. So those managers who would scream loudest about you cannot take this subject matter expert into the project, then you know you have the right person, because you need to assign the experienced people into this project, also because you will eventually change a lot of processes along the way, and you need the experts in the old processes in order to assess the consequences as well. And then specialists from the inside and the outside, they have to work along with the business as well. And especially on the data extraction and transformation part, we had a very good team with both internal and external experts, and it is a crucial one about data. Early preparation of business readiness. It is about knocking the door in on directors level to explain why they have to pay attention to this and not just wait until the system comes along. They need to be involved, and they need to be a part of the change management from the beginning. And then when I'm saying standardization is possible, it is, but as a university, we have some specialties that might call for some sugarcoating, I would call it, or minor customization. So we have things like that. For instance, for external sensors, we don't want them to log into the system and then do expense reports. We have made a solution on the outside that are enabling external professors and sensors and so on to do expense reports without logging into the system, but then we are importing them into the system afterwards. So there are things that you need to be aware of, that depending on your business, where standard is not enough. So you just have to be sure about, whenever promoting a customization, it is a long-term marriage that you will go into. So be aware of that. You really need this as a critical part for your business, because when you have a customization, you're stuck to it, and people will ask for more and more. So to sum it up, basically, it's about very much about change management. And there's this famous saying about culture eating strategy for breakfast. So be aware of that. So whatever strategy you are aiming for, you need to understand the culture, and thereby saying you need somebody from the inside who understands this as ambassadors for the project. And currently we're looking into the ADCAR framework about change management and trying to utilize that. Standardization and alignment, it's very good. And leverage for that is the compliance and GDPR thing. And that's a no-brainer from a leverage point of view. It's more easy to say it, but nevertheless, GDPR, it matters. So putting things into a central system instead of having them in spreadsheets and mails, that's a very good thing. Yeah, self-service, as I've indicated, our VIPs, they don't want self-service. So we have this professional supervisor organization coming from the HR department that are serving some of the VIPs. However, I can also see that whenever new VIPs are coming into the picture, and depending on the demographic profile, there are people who want to serve themselves. So we need to support both ways of doing administration. And again, data migration, pay attention to that from the beginning, because garbage in is garbage out, as you all know already, I think. And again, about integrations, we had some temporary integrations, or we have some temporary integrations. And as I've indicated on the customization part, that's where the support is intensive. So if you can avoid temporary integration, do that. And that might also indicate you should go big bang. And I think that some of the partners out in the landscape, they would argue the opposite way, but that's also up to you to assess whether your organization will be able to do that. And at least we are going for a big bang on the finance part in September 2021. So the advantages that I see is about standardization. It actually equals decustomizations, and our two largest customizations in the HR part and the finance part, we are able to eliminate them more or less, and by configuring them from the inside. And on the HR part, the configuration of this holiday legislation support, it's done by a girl from we imported from the HR department, and she's been working with us for 3 years, and she is able to set that up with a very good help from Evosys. Nevertheless, she is doing a lot of configuration herself, and that is our largest customization in the old system landscape. Yeah, then we get the value chain improvement, both in the technical part, the system landscape becomes easier and so on, and also in the business. We are aligning business processes. It's a tough one, but it is possible. And then we have an integrated platform and a data model, so we should not pay attention that much to integrations in the future, and currently we are not. And then you have an insourcing potential. You can do things yourself into a higher degree than you can on an on-premise platform, because you are able to configure yourselves. And then you get those quarterly updates that you have to embrace somehow. You can tick them on and off, but along the way you need to embrace them. But then your organization comes into another mode in order to be able to implement those quarterly updates, and that's a good thing from my point of view, because then you can utilize the new technology to a far greater extent than we have been able to do in the on-premise world so far.